Yeah.
Oh man. Okay.
It's been harder to come together this week, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. Yes, it has.
Yeah.
But like we said, it was going to go that way. It was going to go that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
What are some of the challenges you're finding? What is it, six or 7 weeks now, I suppose, since the murder of George Floyd, and what's brought about us wanting to have this conversation?
Yeah. I think probably one main story that sticks to mind is I have a girl in our church who basically texted me one time and said she doesn't want to live anymore.
Okay.
This is too hard. They hate us. They all hate us. This is and she prefixed it by saying, I know this is going to sound silly and stuff, but, and then went on to say all of those things. So I very quickly replied and said, you were right to say this is silly. Nevertheless, this is how you feel, and if you're free to chat. And so we got on the phone and we talked. And basically what had moved her, because obviously there are lots of people sharing lots of different things there, and particularly people who don't come from the same place of grace will say hurtful things. But actually the thing that really hurt her was seeing Christians not getting it.
Yeah.
Not getting it. When she says, or other people put forward Black Lives Matter, you get Christians saying, no, all lives matter. It's like, oh, okay. And then when she says, oh, I'm feeling racist things being done to me, other people say, yeah, but racism happens everywhere. Bad things happen to everybody.
Yeah, okay.
And she's like, oh, what do I have to do? This is mad. So I found that probably the most disturbing part of this whole journey in my experience. And
yeah, thank you.
It's real.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've had a different feeling. As I say, we should have found out before we started, but I think it's 6 or 7 weeks. But and this hasn't necessarily come from anyone specific, but there's kind of a feeling that in order to see through this change that we want to see, I'm feeling as if I have to choose the right time and the right thing to say, and it just makes me sad, because I feel like I feel a pressure to compromise in order to see through something that's important, and and that hurts a bit.
That is sad. That is sad. People needing to be almost persuaded to the thing that they agree that is wrong.
Yeah.
Just the other day I was reading Premier Magazine did this fantastic article on Black Lives Matter.
Okay.
And in front of it, the cover is Black Lives Matter to Jesus.
Yes.
Okay. And then on Facebook, loads of people are commenting on it. And it goes from, oh, I'm really sad that you guys have gotten behind this organization. I'm going to have to stop giving to you. Or, yeah, but Black lives matter, but so do white lives. Or all lives matter. And all of those things. And then they get into this argument on it, as if to say we don't all agree that racism is wrong. Yeah. And it becomes a thing that divides the church. Yeah. Even though it is the thing that we would all agree on, and saying no people group should suffer. And that's really what the issue is. Yeah. And to say Black Lives Matter does not mean other lives don't matter. Not at all. In the same way that if we were, say, for example, raising awareness to breast cancer, for example, you won't say to somebody who's trying to do that, why are you doing that for? All cancer matter. What about my lung cancer? What about other stuff? It's just raising awareness to that particular situation. But it is hurtful when people don't get it. Yeah. When people say that kind of stuff, as if to say there is an argument to be had. It's not an argument to be had at all.
Yeah. And we've we had an unrelated conversation earlier today, and we were talking about timescales, and I just wondered, you know, as we're in this situation now where we're kind of the reality of seeing this through is getting more real, and you know, I wonder if is there anything specific that you're trying to lead Beulah to, that you're kind of going, this year I want us to get this. You know, is there anything that you're kind of thinking that's next step?
Okay, so I want to cast a vision and then draw it back, in terms of steps towards it. In the Bible, we believe that God says that there's going to come a time when his kingdom invades this kingdom. There's going to be no mourning, no pain, no suffering, no struggling. All of that will pass away. All of this division and the things that are causing hurt will be no more.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a people group who are loving one another, enjoying one another, and all of this stuff ain't in there anymore.
Yeah.
So that's where we're going. But as Trevor says, here's the thing. We as the church are almost like an eschatological presence in our time. So in other words, we are a prophetic people pointing to what's to come.
Okay.
So the thing that is coming, we need to be demonstrating that here and the now.
Yeah.
And so what I've done at Beulah in terms of steps towards that, I've taken the very simple principle and where Paul basically appeals to the church and says, prefer one another above yourselves. Now, before I use these terminologies, I know people have said, for example, I am pro-black. And what they're basically meaning is I want to support black businesses, black this, I only buy from these people and all of that sort of stuff. And because there isn't a formal definition of it, other than pro basically means forward, put something before. I've taken that word and place it on the scriptures that says prefer one another above yourself. In other words, put other people before you, put them forward. So I've got all our white people in the church, in the congregation, to actually say they are pro-black. They are preferring black people in the same way that, and I've got black people to say they are pro-white. And really, if we could say that and mean it and really live that out, I think we will be a very different culture than the culture around us. So we're not fighting, come on, you know, I am anti-racist, or come on, can you see this? It is, we demonstrating love for one another.
Yeah. And
it has been an interesting response.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's probe or not.
No, it revealed that people are on a journey, okay? So I got lots of videos back, lots of people with their photos holding the plaque, I am pro-black or I am pro-white. I suppose two observations. One, people struggled with it because there is the hurt stuff. I immediately saw from our black community, black people, often questioning me, what do you mean? Because I've always been pro-white. The system is pro-white. We don't need to say that it's all true already. And then when we dig further, it becomes actually, no, there is hurt there. There is a need for healing there. When we're saying we are pro-white, we're not saying let the system carry on, or no, we're saying we are wanting to be for them regardless. Yeah. And from our white congregation brothers and sisters, in fact, I've got more videos from them, which is very encouraging. And lots of them are sending in videos. No, we want you to know we are pro-black. We are going to be standing for you guys and fighting for this anti-racist agenda and shift the culture, which has been a real blessing. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know, but I would imagine that it's, you know, given, as you say, it's exposed hurt, I presume a bit of perhaps unforgiveness on the part of some black people who have been asked to make those videos. It's quite low-hanging fruit for a white person to say they're pro-black, isn't it? It's quite easy to do, really, isn't it? And I'm not saying that, you know, huge systematic change needs to happen at Beulah. I don't believe that's true.
Right.
I don't believe that's true at Jubilee either. But we do want to have the conversation seriously and openly and see true change. So if we're going to be that prophetic people, if we're going to be that prophetic witness, we're going to be that eschatological presence today. I mean, what are you hoping for? What do you want Beulah to look like in 5 years' time? To pick a time frame out of the air.
If I'm right now, I want the people who come to church, the first thing they see is that this group is so anti-racist, anti-other. It is so one, so much that you see more of the praise of the black community coming from the white community.
Yes, okay.
And so much more of the praise for the white community coming from the black community. And obviously everything in between as well. That when they come in, I actually want to make it a value of ours that we are pro-other. We are so much so. When we talk about we being counterculture, that's what I see. I see a people group that is so different. They are not fighting for their rights. They are affirming one another. Yeah. That's what I see. And I think we want that modeled in different places as we go forward.
And I think, one thing that I've come across a few times as I've been reading and watching things is that kind of the way that everyday racism can be, evident in things like, oh, I love your hair. Can I touch your hair? So how do we have that? How do we have what you've said, where we're preferring the other and we're truly honouring one another without it being tokenistic, without it being, oh, you've got lovely hair, can I touch it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think it is a shift of position rather than changing people's behaviour. So if, for example, I didn't know you and I was thinking that actually, no, we're different and I'm not quite sure about you, and then you said, oh, your hair looks nice, can I touch it? I could go one or two ways. I could think he's patronizing me, he's being racist by covertly doing this. Nevertheless, but if I knew you, if we were together and I knew that you are for me, the thought that you're being covertly racist is not going to come to my mind. Okay. Yeah? And I would take it like in our first video you made comments about your hair, that you needed a haircut kind of thing. It will be just normal because...
Got the appointment booked now, by the way.
Oh, you have?
Monday.
I think it's No, so it is about the position being changed. And I think when the position... If this is the one time, and this is going to come across wrong, but I'm going to explain myself so you get it. If there's ever been a time that I've wanted to be white, it would be now, for one reason, just so that I can say I'm pro-black. Okay. Just so that I can model this thing. This is what it looks like. I want to be so for you that the attitudes that come out or my reflexes that come out will be all for you. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I saw there was a really funny short video I saw on Facebook the other day of James Corden. Do you know James Corden? Oh. From the Late Late Show in the US. Mm-hmm. And a few weeks ago he had that cool thing with his dad, who's like a Bible salesman, talking about Donald Trump. But he had this little sketch where it was totally hammy, like it was so funny. It was completely staged, but he had this black lady, obviously from his team, call him, like FaceTimed him on his laptop whilst he was about to do a section of the program, and then she ended up teaching him about white privilege and about how actually you can use your white privilege for good now, because right now, just as you've said, right now you can use this position that you enjoy as a white person in society to affect change. And I think that's been one of the differences we've seen in the protests, hasn't it, is that it's been everyone saying enough's enough, this is it.
Yeah, and particularly in Tooting's the Tooting's protest, I saw in the video more white people on the streets of Tooting than black people, and I thought, yeah, go on. Which, not that we want to be necessarily that, but I think it's something that is being modeled when you say, actually, no, we're standing together against this. We all agree that this is wrong. Just something you mentioned that made me remember. I have also observed, you were asking earlier, that there is this thing about not wanting to talk too much about it because it makes probably more our white people than our black people uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I've come across this phrase, white guilt. Okay, and that's the kind of thing I saw when I was seeing the comments under Premier's magazine, the article on Black Lives Matter to Jesus. It's almost as if when you say Black Lives Matter, it makes some white people feel guilty already just by saying that. And rather than stopping, rather than let's stop talking about thin and make me feel okay, actually what that happens is you just sweep it under the carpet and this carries on onto the next outbreak and uproar which will happen in the next generation or your grandchildren's life, which is going to be worse. Or actually we come into a place where we deal with it.
Yeah.
And that will look one or two ways. You say, okay, why am I feeling this? And then what do we do about it? Okay? So when I see white Christians, brothers and sisters in particular, because I care for, and we are from the same base, I'm able to engage with them. I would say, no, we want to. This isn't about you. This isn't about making you feel guilty. This isn't about an emotional thing. This is about changing something.
Yeah. And
you have been obviously brought in. I mean, I don't know one slave trade. Okay, you have been brought into a system that is built this way. Mm-hmm. You didn't build it. You didn't do it. But you're in a system that no fault of your own personally, but this is how it is.
Yeah.
So yes, it's wrong and you agree, but that's just the way it is. So go past the guilt and say, how do we make this right? That is infinitely more important than feeling guilty or shying away from it or trying to avert it. Mm-hmm. It's no, if you accept this is wrong, how can you help change this and make it better? And really, that's what the conversation is about, rather than do I support Black Lives Matter or am I anti-racist or anything. It's about changing this system that you've come to see that actually is bent towards white privilege.
Yeah, and I think so. When I said that, I said that I'm tempted towards compromise. I'm tempted towards let me be quiet, let me choose my moments, let me choose what I say. And I've just been thinking about, what it took for slavery to be abolished in the British Empire, and and how much I imagine that William Wilberforce and the rest of the Clapham sect hated compensating slave traders. I bet they hated that. I bet actually this is so unrighteous.
They'd be like, how dare you?
Yeah.
Well, you know it's wrong, just stop it.
And yet that was what it took to end it then. And who knows how long it would have persisted if they hadn't done that.
Sure.
And, and is there anything to that pool now? Do you think there is any cause for actually make a bit of compromise to make this stick, to see it through? Yeah. Or is it, no, let's not compromise at all. Yeah. This is wrong, and we're going to have it. What would you suggest? What would you say to me? Would you say keep going, or would you say pick your moments?
That's a good question. I think I think do what we see Jesus do in the scriptures.
Okay.
And this is going to sound again strong. But what Jesus did is he was very straight. He talked about it without compromise. But what he also did do is he didn't necessarily feel he needed to keep talking and explaining himself to people who felt they didn't want to hear him.
Yeah.
Okay. So in other words, it's not picking the moment, it's picking the people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's if people want to hear, they will hear and follow through. If people don't want to hear, and this will be the challenge for all church leaders, because we don't want to dismiss our people. We want to win them, and it's whether or not we want to go the extra mile to win them.
Yeah.
So it's like, no, this is important. We're going to talk about it. We're going to try and fix this and build this new culture where everybody is loved and affirmed, or I'm going to stop talking about it because I'm going to offend you.
Okay.
And you might not want to hear this anymore, so I'm going to compromise on that. I think the nature of the compromise is important.
Okay.
And the bit that I don't want to say, but I'm going to say just to clarify what I'm trying to say is, don't cast your pearl before swine.
Yeah.
Okay? So fight for the right, and people will follow. And those who don't want to follow, leave.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Thank you.
And I say that strongly because, as you reminded me, PJ Smythe says, there's going to be a time where we're going to clarify all of these things. But right now, we need to be pushing this.
Yeah.
We need to be pushing this. And when we've pushed it over and then we're talking about it, and people like that who are saying, stop talking about it, we'll be like, this is why it was important for us to keep talking about it.
Good.
And then win them at that time. But let's not stop pushing.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you. I like that. Good.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I think we try to keep these to under 20 minutes, so we'll probably call it a day there.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
How long has it been?
Already, yeah, it's been 20 minutes, I think.
No way!
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, we didn't even get to hear your vision on the multicultural baby that God has spoken to, which is to Selsdon. Say it quickly.
Okay, we've got 6 minutes until it dies.
Okay.
No, so Croydon Jubilee Church. I don't know who brought it actually. I don't know who it came from, how long ago it came, but it certainly came before my time at Croydon Jubilee. But we received a prophecy, which is one of a few that have really stuck with us, which is that we would become a multicoloured baby.
A multicoloured
baby. And I think, the way that stuck with us is that we believe that God is going to make us a multicultural, racially diverse church.
Sure.
And I'm really encouraged. I think, since I've been in leadership at Jubilee, it's something that I've spoken about often and kind of reminded the church that, look, this is what God's calling us to. This is what He said. But equally, we've seen it too. We've seen an increase of black and minority ethnic people joining the church and becoming part of the family. So I'm really excited by that. But I think it's still just the first fruits of what I'm believing that God's going to do among us in the months and years to come. So, yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, you need some good leaders to help you draw that.
Amen. Yeah.
But no, that's great.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah, it is. Cool.
Cool.
So your idea for our next conversation is maybe to have a look at the words of a friend of ours and one of the leaders of our movement, Trevor Payne.
Trevor Payne.
So,
He did an excellent little video on it, so we'll look at that next week.
Give him a heads up and do that, yeah. Great. Thanks,
cool.
Joseph.
All right, no, thank you.
Cool.
Thank you. It's good chatting to you, always.
Yeah, and you. Great.
Cool.